Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We share our own original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts. Jess Ringgenberg, welcome to the conversation today.
Thank you so very much for having me. I appreciate it.
It is a pleasure to be with you. Where are you joining us from?
Dallas, Texas, and I'm loving the Boston. The New England area is one of my favorite parts of the country.
Yeah, so I'm actually south of Salt Lake City in Utah, but I'm wearing, in honor of the new Happy Gilmore movie, I'm wearing my Boston jersey, so with Gilmore on the back.
Great celebration gear. I love it.
I'm a sucker for nostalgia. So when that came out, I watched it the first day on Netflix, and it was wonderful. So
yeah, I mean, go to your home, golf ball. Are you too good for your home?
that's right. Well, I'm just so excited to chat with you. Great to have you joining us from Dallas. Today we're going to be talking about career stagnation and identity shifts and how we can navigate all of that. I think this is a super important topic, especially given how rapidly things are shifting. The landscape is changing, and our footing, is being challenged each and every day almost, it seems like. And so now is the time. If you feel yourself stagnating, you want to make sure that you're relevant, and you want to make sure that you get out of that stuck place, and being able to think about who we are and why, we have the identity that we have and where we want to go. It is a really, really important reflective exercise. So we're going to try to explore and unpack all of this as we chat together today. As we get started, I wanted to share Jess's bio with everybody. Jess Ringgenberg is a researcher, Fortune 500 biotech leader, and mother of two with deep expertise at the intersection of caregiving, strategy, leadership, and advocacy. She's the founder and CEO of ELIXR, a workforce advisory firm on a mission to make caregivers in the workplace impossible to ignore, turning a hidden risk into a driver for retention, performance, and growth. I could go on. There's so many awesome things. We can talk a little bit about the science of modern motherhood, which I know is a huge thing that you're working on. But anything you would like to highlight by way of your background, personal context before we dive on it?
Yeah, I appreciate the overview. You mentioned career stagnation, so I really look forward to discussing what motherhood and caregiving and parenthood looks like in the workforce today in 2025. But at ELIXR, we have a really big mission, and that's just to turn this hidden caregiver risk inside of the workplaces and employers into a measurable outcome, and really understanding and underscoring that 8 out of the 10 employees in the workforce are caregiving in some way. And you mentioned the Science of Modern Motherhood, which is our national research study we facilitated last year, testing hypothesis and my own lived experience. And I really think our conversation is probably going to go 1,000 different directions. And I look forward to learning and getting to know you as well. Background-wise, I climbed the corporate ladder inside of the rare disease space. So commercialized and worked on strategy for these first-in-class biologic medications for patients that don't even have the language to explain the disease that they have. There's no diagnosis codes that exist. And on the physician side, hospital systems and clinicians don't have protocols or medications to treat them. And so in the middle is this magic that happened in these first-in-class drugs to market. And my own lived experience as a mother in the workplace really kind of tested, what does advocacy mean for me? And more importantly, what does the solution look like? So that's my background, that's my why, and I'm super excited to chat.
Awesome. And I will state the obvious, but obviously I am not a mother. But I am a father. I have 6 children, and I've, as you said, 8 out of 10 are caregivers, either to children or maybe an adult dependent who needs additional assistance, or a parent, an elderly parent. Like, there's so many different forms that this can take. And it's like the vast majority of folks. So you may think, oh, they have young children, that's who we need to focus on, maybe, but like there's lots of different forms that this takes, and it impacts so many different people. And so, I mean, anything that impacts 8 out of 10 like means it's something that you should just build into what you do, right?
You nailed it. It's an everybody problem at that statistic, right? And you bring up a good point. It's so funny. We were asked about 6 months ago. The work we do in the workplace is very much research backed, insight sharing, consulting, and advising for their workforce of caregivers. And we're always asked, what does caregiving actually mean? And to your point, as a father, we heard that most men and fathers don't see themselves in the word caregiver, that it
Mm,
felt feminine, it felt focused on the motherhood space. And the actual definition of caregiver is any human responsible for somebody else, an aging parent, elder care, medically complex, child, spouse, partner, family member. And
right.
so responsible for also means financial responsibility, emotional responsibility, and in this workforce built in the industrial era, the 1920s, women were the primary caregiver, not just for children, but for their family members.
Yeah.
And now most women and men are both participating, mothers and fathers are both participating, and the caregiver stream for childcare and elder care is really meeting this pinnacle. This is the moment in the next decade that the world's going to look a lot different.
Yeah. And I do want to acknowledge research is pretty clear that women still disproportionately carry the burden, right? So, I like to think of myself as a very involved father, like very balanced with my wife, who's also, we're both professors, we're both professionals and both have careers.
Yeah.
And I think she'll say the same thing. Like we're partners, I'm very involved. But I fully recognize that that's not always the case. And there's probably lots of mothers out there that would love the dads to be way more involved and carry the burden. And so, anyways, I just want to acknowledge that absolutely all
Yes.
these different people are caregivers, but the research is
Yes.
also very clear that women still disproportionately carry the majority of the burden. And so we need to be extra, careful and responsive to that need. So we're not disproportionately negatively impacting women in the workplace based on our policies, practices, and procedures that may not be terribly adaptive or responsive to this caregiving issue.
It's that cycle, that vicious cycle of the motherhood penalty and tax, which is women are doing 2.5 times more of the work at home. They have the second shift when they get out of work
Yeah.
with children. And it's this paradox of I have to keep working to provide for childcare. And now, since the last year, over 200,000 women have exited the workforce because of childcare costs. And so this motherhood tax and this motherhood penalty comes to fruition. We're manifesting in the systemic problems that keep happening. And then men who do want to step in, like you said, dads who are participating more than ever before, fathers spend more time with their children than they did, around 60% more than in the 70s and the 80s. And so
Mm.
they want to parent and be present, but those who take parental leave or have caregiving responsibilities that they tap into, there's a fear and stigma around what will this do for my advancement? How will this hold me back from where I want to go? There's financial penalization for not just maternity leave, but paternity leave for the fathers and other caregivers that want to take time away to bond with their children and be there for their family as well.
Yeah, and not to make this about me, but I do have an example in my personal life that probably many others have, and I'm sure almost every woman has. But yeah, like I've literally been told that this was maybe a decade ago. So my youngest is now 12. I have six children. My oldest is 22, all the way, kind of every 2 years down to 12. So I'm past the like young kid stage. But 10 years ago, like I had a whole bunch of young kids, right? And I was flat out told, hey, you're the most qualified, but you're too much of a family man to be involved in this position, to have this position. Like they literally told me that out loud. And I was like, well, why would you say that? I mean, there's a whole bunch of other reasons why you could choose somebody else. But I'm like, have I ever not performed? Are you actually concerned that I wouldn't be able to do the job? They didn't say that. They just said, you're too much of a family man. And I'm sure that almost every woman who's listening has either been told that or like it's been implied or like in some way that they've experienced that as well. And it sucks like that. There's no reason for that. Like it's just, and it's stupid. Like it's like, why would they deprive themselves of a really qualified person for no other reason than they're like, we're not sure, like this person likes to
Yeah.
spend too much time with their family. Like, what is that?
You stated the obvious. You and I know, and we've probably like lived it on the other end, but that outdated bias and this like expectation that if you are present at home, you're not going to do good work or lean in or go
Yeah.
above and beyond in the workplace. You said it sucks. And the fact of the matter is that all of the science says that parenting and caregiving is actually a leadership accelerator. We can
Mm.
see on MRI your brain remodeling and expanding when you're caregiving for others. You are malleable and adaptable. You're developing empathy, executive functioning, decision making. Like you are literally being primed for leadership. And I think I know the bias comes from we haven't normalized the caregiver value. We're only looking at it as a risk, a black, check on your resume, rather than normalizing it as a earlier to our conversation, an everybody problem and everybody lived experience. And when you don't see it at the top, we hear it in our surveys, our workplace insights, our engagements inside of small startups all the way to Fortune ones. It doesn't matter where we are, that if I don't see myself at the top, or I can't hear those caregiver or parenting stories at the top and they're not being normalized, no wonder you got passed up for being too present at home. And we don't want that to be the case. We want that story to actually be a benefit to the organization as a leadership accelerator.
Yeah, and maybe it's a little bit more rare for guys to experience that. But again, it's probably like super pervasive. It's probably almost every woman has experienced that. I know my wife has, multiple times, and it's just it really is just incredibly stupid. So like a lot of pick your kind of outdated workplace bias, and there's a gazillion of them, right? They're all just
Yeah,
stupid. Like literally, you want to get the best people in your organization to help you do the best work to bring value to the market so that your company can be successful. And of course, you would want the best people. And yet, whether we're talking about this sort of an issue with caregiving and career transitioning and those sorts of things, or name your other bias, like companies shoot themselves in the foot, leaders shoot themselves in the foot over and over and over again with these outdated notions that just aren't relevant. And I think like the pandemic, it's been talked about ad nauseum, but like it's relevant to this conversation. Like the pandemic has been shown to set women back in the workforce a generation. So all of these issues that we're starting to see some progress. Now, like we've reverted back, and now
yes.
it's even worse because so many leaders, CEOs are having these return to office mandates, and there may be a time and a place for return to office. Like, and I am, as much as anyone, I'm going to say, yeah, there are times where like if you can be together in person, it's going to foster opportunities for connection, for relationships, for building trust, for innovating and having creativity. Absolutely, all that can be true, but that can be true, and it can also be true that you don't need to be in the office all the time. Like there's so much research on how intentionality, regardless of modality, is what matters. So whether you're in person, you're remote, you're hybrid, like it's how you
Yeah.
intentionally interact with each other that matters. And we know that these return to office mandates, more, again, there may be a context where it is absolutely the clear-cut right decision, but generally speaking, they're stupid. They're just really dumb, and they disproportionately negatively impact women who are the primary
Yeah.
caregivers, and so
Yeah.
now you have these policies that regardless of whatever good intention might be behind them, and I actually think that a lot of times it's not good intention, a lot of times it's control, but let's assume good intention. The good intention behind it is still negatively disproportionately impacting caregivers generally, but women specifically because they have two and a half times the caregiving
Yeah.
responsibility. And so again, if we need people in the office to do collaborative things, then fine, let's find when it's necessary and then really leverage that time. But to just arbitrarily say everyone now has to be in the office, I am thinking of one particular position at a current organization that I work with where they identified the top candidate, like they knew who they wanted and they were actively pursuing this person. And she was a great candidate, awesome expertise, kind of a unicorn position, really hard to find the person. They find the person, okay? And then the person says, hey, there's this return to office mandate. Hey, I can come in 2 days a week, but I can't do, and they were asking for 4 days a week in the office. She's like, I can't do four because I have young children and I have to, I have these responsibilities and I can do the work and I can do the work, but I can only, commit to 2 days a week. And of course, that was it. Like they say no, she's gone. Now they're still scrambling. They can't find another unicorn. And I'm like, how stupid is that
Yeah.
for everyone?
Yeah.
Like it hurts everybody.
It hurts everybody. You bring up so many great points. First of all, let's go back to the bias piece because bias plays into that story you just told as well. Like the expectation, let's choose, no intent of the hiring individuals that it's just an unconscious bias that she can't do good work at home remotely or she's not engaged enough if she's not in the office. But unconscious bias is because it's not visible. We can't see it if we're not talking about it, if it's not in the discussion in the room and it's hidden in the margins. Most certainly we're going to have biases around it where it's going to come from our past experiences or what we believe to be true from decades before. And COVID was the pinnacle where we proved the hypothesis that you can caregive and work really well because the school hours do not align with workforce hours,
Right.
period. So RTO doesn't just mean RTO. We were talking with an executive team a couple of days ago that when you put the RTO mandate in place, are you considering those pre drop off commute hours, those post commute hours? Those are childcare costs where you have to fill the void and we don't have the village in modern day parenting like we did before. There's not the grandparents around. Where the boomer age population is not as present or available. They might even still be working or
Right.
not alive. So whatever that situation is, the expectation is that caregiving is a personal problem outside of the workplace, and the bias is that you're going to be less than a non-parent employee. We can see it in the hiring practices that still happen today. And then, as you mentioned, the disproportionate impact to women. It's why we've seen over 200,000 women exit the workforce since 2024. Somebody has to
And
stay
that's
home,
by the way, that's
right?
after the huge
The
exodus of
RTO
women from the
mandate.
workforce during COVID, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. They all came back. And then you can look at when the RTO mandates, there's a great graph. I think it was Pew. There's a great graph as soon as RTO mandates really became sticky, you can see the exiting decline. And we're losing all the gains we saw in gender pay equality as well. And then on the flip side, that means that those fathers are now going to carry the financial burden of single income families. And with the cost of groceries and living today, we need both parents participating in the workforce. So when caregiving is invisible and not valued, then of course you're not going to hire that unicorn. You're going to hire somebody else that can be there 4 days a week. And it's a disservice to your organization. It's a disservice to your business. And at the end of the day, for the caregivers you already employ, if those considerations are not being made, it can cost up to $200,000 to backfill your top talent caregiver employee, which we have said time and time again, is 8 out of 10 employees. So, there's a cost to inaction as well.
Well, and I think about you said this earlier, it relates to what we're talking about now, is just the kind of the preparation for leadership through caregiving and the rewiring of the brain and all, the huge variety of skills that you have to like develop to
Yeah.
be an effective caregiver. And I look at my wife, for example, my wife who is brilliant. She's also a professor, way smarter than I am. I teach HR stuff. She teaches like statistics and calculus and quantitative stuff, and she's just brilliant. But she chose to go part-time as we were having our six children and focus on caregiving. And of course, I was a very involved father as well. And it was only, I don't know, 5 years ago. She's a few years younger than me, but about 5 years ago that she decided she would return to full-time work. And it's interesting. And she worked the whole time we were having kids, but it was just on a part-time basis. But it's interesting, how much people discount,
Yeah.
her brilliance, her capabilities, and then like we flip and have six kids that she navigated a doctoral degree, six children, publishing, all of that. Like she's like a rock star, like the fact that she wasn't full time that whole time is not relevant. Like that's the dumbest thing. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, that's now what, she's kind of returned to the workforce in a full-time capacity. And she has this, in the minds of some people, kind of this black mark on her resume because she wasn't full-time the whole time.
Yeah.
It's just stupid. It literally is like, I'll also brag on my wife for a minute. Like literally at the university, we're both at the same university, but she is literally the number one professor, like instructor, because she has this rare skill that's not always common in quantitative fields of being able to help the student who feels like they cannot do quantitative courses to get over their anxiety, learn the material, and actually learn to excel, even if they've been told their whole life they can't do math or they can't do
Yeah.
quantitative. And she, she has like the lowest average class GPA, so her classes are hard, but she has the
Yeah.
highest student evaluations because students love her because she's amazing. And she's the like the number one professor, teaching professor in the university. Or she's won university awards, at least in the college in the School of Business. And and yet she still gets kind of overlooked because people focus in on this like, oh, you didn't work full time the whole time. I'm like, dude, she's
Yeah.
so much more of a badass than you are.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is like we're discounting the parenting and the caregiving as work and development. If there's no better personal and professional development than, giving and caring for somebody else, especially from infancy to birth until now, we can see it documented. It is science, it's academically and scientifically researched. And the hope from bringing visibility and talking about this, your wife's experience is not unique. We heard it from the hundreds of women we surveyed in our study last year. And for that, those who decide to leave and then return, if it's not valued and understood as a benefit, as that leadership accelerator, then the hiring manager and the HR teams, they're going to pass over that unicorn top talent that most certainly should be at the top of the list. And we heard that, parenthood, we talk about parental leave and early parenthood, that's where the conversation lives. And it misses out on the continuum of care and parenting. It is a never ending cycle. And so, yes, the cliff of care and risk is for that return to work, that new mom, that new dad, that early career parent. But there's also the longest phase of navigation, which we call middle motherhood or evolution. And it's those individuals that are navigating ages 3 to 17, and they have significant career stagnation. They can't get back into the workforce. And then in the later stages, they navigate ageism. Those women who have adult children now, who have left their homes, and they have institutional knowledge. They are your bench of senior executive leadership, but they're passed over for somebody else when they are ready to ramp back up. And we heard that it feels like my work is not valued in the workplace. I feel invisible, and I'm experiencing ageism in my career. And we have to talk about that. We have to talk about this invisible story that hiring managers and HR needs to see as a value and see yourself in the people that you're hiring. Yeah, so it's just I climbed that corporate ladder myself, and I just felt so invisible. Motherhood was additive. You're so prepared to show up at work, and your performance is rated and valued. And you have these one-on-one performance conversations, but caregiving and parenting is not integrated into those review and advancement conversations. It's not part of the discussions of what's the reality of our workforce and our employee population today. Do you know the demographics? How many of your employees are family planning? How many of your employees say that they're ready to advance, but they feel like they can't talk to their, managers about it? And so, and unfortunately, your wife's story, like I said, is not unique. We heard it so many times. As a personal aside, my husband, I retired him for 6 years. He was a stay-at-home dad. So we
Mhm,
were very much the opposite of most.
mhm.
And he was a burnt out investment banker, and I was doing very well. And when he was ready to go back to work, when our kids got older, he experienced the same thing, this big gap that is just like a stigma and outdated bias of, you can't do the same thing this other person can. And we want to change the narrative around caregiving and parenting and just simply normalize it. Like that's the easiest thing we can do is the conversation you and I are having. It needs to happen inside of employers and inside of the companies who are, paying these salaries for these employees.
Yeah. So maybe as we start to wrap up, I know at the time I'm going to have to let you go in here a few minutes, but like how do you envision the future of workplaces when care is no longer invisible? Like what people are having these conversations, it's well understood, it's seen, it's validated, and it's integrated more into leadership and culture.
I mean, I think that the future of work, we like to say is care conscious. It's just part of the conversation. When you talk about RTO, you are considering about your lived experience of your employees. You're considering what is the cost risk, the attrition risk, what is the hidden risk of
Mhm.
not knowing this information, because there is most certainly a cost. And it's not just attrition, it's performance, it's
Yeah.
engagement, it's burnout, it's well-being. The reality is the US Surgeon General put out a parental health crisis last year. Parents are burnt out, disengagement's at an all-time high. The future has to incorporate this information into the conversation, or else we're going to lose our top talent out of the workforce. It's going to be no choice but to leave because mentally they can't handle it. Financially, they can't carry the burden. And it's on the flip side of that, it impacts families. Parents are expected and caregivers are expected to show up and give for those around them. I'm part of the sandwich generation. Have you heard of that term before? I'm sure you have. Yeah. So we caregive up and we caregive down, and there are those that need us. And as a country, we don't have the infrastructure to support children outside of school hours, and elder care systems are fragile and full, and they can't take a load. So if we want our employees to be able to show up the way they need them to drive the workforce forward, to hit the bottom line, to move the investors the number, right? Take a pulse and really consider who your employees are. And that's the future, is when that's just simply part of the conversation.
Yeah. It's the right thing to do from a business case, perspective. Clearly, it's also the right thing to do just from a societal perspective, a moral perspective. Like we just need to do this, and let's get beyond these biases and these outdated notions. Let's create better systems of support. It's going to benefit everybody. Well, Jess, this has just been a real pleasure. As we wrap up, I just wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, and then give us a final word for today.
Love it. They can go to elixircoaching.com. Our new domain is going to be elixirsolutions.co. I'm super excited to launch our full new branding next month. They can download our full research report, The Science of Modern Motherhood, where we share the insights, this word that most mothers don't know. They can learn about our solutions that we offer. Follow me on LinkedIn. I would love to engage. I've never met a stranger, so please reach out. Don't be a stranger. And sign up for our newsletter, where we're sharing inside the care conversations inside of companies with executive leaders, HR teams, and ERG chairs. And we're just, like I said, really trying to shine a light on your workforce that you might not know even exists.
Awesome. Jess, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, get connected, find out more about what Jess can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a good week. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and please join us again soon.